they had these craft, and the Russians, of course, knew about them. And at the end of World War II, they split. You here in America took half the German space scientists, captured half of them. The Russians captured the other half. And of course you had Werner von Braun here. And now the Russians were very anxious to get into Berlin first, which they did, of course, because they wanted the archives of Zimmermann, the Berlin Institute, because there they had the blueprints of these craft. And of course, as soon as this happened, the bases where the craft were being constructed were completely destroyed by the Germans, all the underground bases. But the Russians knew what was going on, and they went straight there, and they actually took the foundations of these laboratories back to Russia to test and to examine them to see what type of research had been going on there. And of course, now today, we have certain modified, what we classify as V7s. As I described in my book, the one Russian scientist landed in the Drakensberg in one of these craft. They're very mobile, and they're still atmospheric craft. Now, the Russians have had a space laboratory up there in orbit for many, many years. Then they had Salyut 7. Now they have a very big new one called Mir, which means peace. And this is an enormous space station, and it can house 12 men who can live up there for long periods of time. And they're continually ferrying men and material up there all the time. Now, this is purely military, so you don't hear anything about it. And now, at the time of when I wrote my book, all that information, they had already perfected one of these V7s from the German blueprints. And they were able to land from the space station in those days, which they did in the Drakensberg, because they detected with their sophisticated instruments the proximity, the electromagnetism of the starship. And this is what they were after. And I describe all this in my book. And please tell me, anyone else?
Why was it 9 years? Why not 20?
How do you mean bad news? What did you say?
What determined the length of time that you stayed in the dark? Why was it 9 years? Why not forever?
Well, the reason is because I have work to do. You see, today what is happening, there's a vast educational system that is going on throughout the entire planet, Earth. And not only in books and magazines and children's comics and films, we also lecture everywhere. We tell people, we talk about it. Now, I was told years ago that I mustn't talk about it and I mustn't write about it. But I have done so. And now, after 35 years, I can bring out so much more in a new book. Because after 35 years, I am no longer bound by the Official Secrets Act.
I have some question about how this is connected to spiritual awakening, in the sense that Arkin and his race being our seed, going from us to them seems linear. And whereas, as Christ's example, that seems, a bit different. How does our light being and our awareness and consciousness fit in with this race?
Well, as I said, it's an attitude of mind, a way of living and thinking. And if you do that in the light, which is an expression we use, in the light, which means love, understanding, tolerance, this is universal. Christ's teachings are universal. It doesn't only apply to this planet.
Not his teachings, but what he did when he took his body and became a light being.
That's right. He simply moved. It was a metamorphosis. He simply moved into another dimension. You must realize that there is no such thing as death. Everything is changed. Nothing stands still. And everything moves throughout the entire universe. Everything is changed. Nothing ever stands still. And you are condensed energy. And when your physical body decays away, because that's literally what it does, your energy, your soul, your spirit, whatever you wish to call it, is still very much there, because this is energy, this is light, and that never dies. And the result is, it's all done through the electromagnetic wavelength of the universe. As you live and think, so you get on that magnetic wave that takes you to a higher dimension, to a more advanced planet, where you can be reincarnated. And it's like a cycle of life. This is nature. It's natural. It is a cycle of life that brings you back from the energy to the substance. And this goes on all the time. Everything is continuous change. And it's very wonderful. This, you would say, is fantastic, but it rarely happens. There is no such thing as death. It's purely a metamorphosis from one state to another. And then you know exactly. You're still alive. You know what's happening. You can see yourself. Medical science has proved it too. In fact, one of the greatest scientists described to me how on the operating table he actually died. And there he was watching what the surgeons were doing, and he was telling them what to do. And they didn't listen because they couldn't So you see, there's so much. It deals with everything, absolutely everything in life, and everything that you think in your spirit, everything. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.